Thank you, John, so much. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes? Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. You know, uh, I think it was great how Ben started us off with the opening question today because it actually has to do with little bit part of my message today for you guys. And um, yeah, really hope you guys are all doing well. And, uh, you know, uh, I had the time to really spend time with God preparing for this message, and I really got blessed from it. And hopefully I can relay something to you guys that will stick to you guys, that somehow it'll be something that'll come across to you guys. Um, but basically, what I was thinking about, or as I was preparing for the message, these past couple of weeks, I kind of saw myself, I had this moment with God that, or not with God, but actually with myself, like, oh man, I'm so addicted, like I'm so addicted specifically to my phone, like I'm so addicted to this thing. And um, recently I've been reading this book. It's called Breathing Underwater. And I've been reading it with Julius and also Julius' teacher and also my leader James. And I'm still in the middle of reading the book, but the very introduction, something just really stuck to me. And basically, what the author in this Bible or the author in this book says is that, you know, as human beings, we're all addicts. We're all addicted. uh, we're addictive by nature. We have this addictive personality. And basically, what he says is in this book is that this word addiction is just a modern phrase of what the Bible would call sin. So, addictive, this addictive personality, our addictions, it's equal to basically what the Bible calls sin. So, um, when I was preparing for this message, I went back, like thinking over the book, and basically what's been going on in my own life the last couple of weeks is that, like I mentioned, I've been addicted to my phone, and I mean, uh, usually I don't really recognize it as a problem, but uh, this past week I did recognize that I'm just going deeper and deeper into this addictive personality. Like as soon as like as soon as I want to go like turn off my mind and just kind of go on cruise control, and I have quiet time by myself, the first thing I reach for is my phone. And what I saw about myself is that I pick up my phone and um, like there's always the same apps and like websites that I go through. And like I think Ben teacher asked us like what is the app that you guys go through most? But for me it's like it's always like this cycle of these things that I'll go through every time I open up my phone. So if I have enough time, I'm going to go through almost each and every single one of them. So uh, I'll I'm pretty into sports, right? So I'll open up ESPN and I'll see like what's going on with like the sports world, right? All the different things that are going on. And I really like following news, so I open up the Safari app and I try to see all the news feeds through CNN. And then recently, uh, I've been going on to Fox News. I don't know if you guys know the difference, but Fox News is more uh, like right leaning, and CNN is like more left leaning, like more liberal. So I want to see both perspectives, So I go through all of CNN and all of Fox News, because in my mind I'm thinking I don't want to be swayed one way or the other, right? Because I want to be right in the middle, like who's telling me the truth, like so I go through actually both. I used to just be all on CNN, and I was like, why do people love Trump? So let me go to Fox News and see what are they saying there. So I'll go through CNN and Fox News to see the different perspectives. And then recently I've been uh with Black Friday shopping, like I've been going to a lot of shopping apps, like I think I shared Friday night, like I like Lululemon clothes. So I have downloaded the Lululemon app on my phone, and they have a section, for we made too much clothes. and this section, it's all sales clothes. So I'm going in there looking at their sale items, and they had a Black Friday section. Okay, so I started looking through Black Friday, and I ordered stuff, obviously, not just for myself. I'm not that like totally selfish, but I order stuff for other people. But I looked through Lululemon, and then I love J. Crew, so like J. Crew's blasting me emails like 50% off, 60% off, and then I'm shopping on J. Crew, going through all of the sale items, and then I see myself after I order these items, the next thing is like I have to see when the trackings are issued. I don't know if you guys have ever ordered things online, but you get an email eventually your package is being shipped, you get a tracking number, and you can see approximate date it's coming, and there's this kind of excitement like, oh, my package is coming, this Friday, it's coming this Saturday. I can't wait, to open this gift, and um, then Amazon. I don't know if you guys shop on Amazon, but our package is like we get Amazon deliveries every single day. I don't know, it just comes out of like just coming every single day, and usually a lot of it is like what my wife and kids are shopping for. So I look through the Amazon just to see what they've been ordering, like I'll go through that, like what is my wife ordering today, or like what is she getting for the kids. And then um and then the next thing I check is like my bank accounts. Okay, so I have Wells Fargo, I have Chase, I have a Citi savings account, I have a another savings account, I have my Venmo account, and I'm looking through all of my balances, like how much is in my account, where am I spending my money, how much is my credit card bill this month. I'm going through all these things. And then I own like an insurance like business, so I have this like business Yelp page. So I have to go to my Yelp page to see like what reviews have I gotten, and oh, should I respond back to them, because now I'm trying to think, I want to respond back to all the reviews, like. And so I'm checking that. And and then before, in the olden days, we used to cut out coupons like to like go grocery shopping, right? I used to see my dad do that all the time, and I used to think like, man, that's so cheap, right? It's just like, what are you saving, like 50 cents or a dollar, right? But I have a Ralph's app that I'll see like what the new coupons are, because I love to go grocery shopping, like what can I buy, like with a little discount, like so I'll go to my Ralph's my Ralph's app, and um yeah, I basically go through all these things. I just downloaded a Nike app for some odd reason. Like I don't really buy a lot of Nike gear, but I just downloaded it, and they have all these like nice shoes. And I'm not a really big sneakerhead, but I was like, whoa, that looks nice, and I haven't bought anything yet, but it's on my phone, and it's kind of, I can tell like, like I start to spend time on it, and so when I look at when I when I saw that about myself, I was so tired. Like there was a moment sometime this week, I was like, God, I didn't ask God, but I told myself in my mind, like, I'm so tired of this. Like, why am I turning on my phone and I'm going through the same thing over and over? And uh, uh, there's like, there's another app that YouTube, like, I think we talked about YouTube, that I go to YouTube a lot because um, like one of my car I have on lease, it's being returned soon, right? So I have to see what car I want to get. So if you look at my YouTube feed, it's like all these different car videos. And I was at this moment, I was just sitting and on my phone, I realized like I was so addicted, and I was telling myself, I just want to stop. And I was telling myself in my mind, Eric, stop, but for some reason I could not stop. I just couldn't put it down, even though I told myself like uh I need to stop, I want to stop. And um that's when i I was reminded, as I was preparing this message about the book, that we're all addictive by nature. Like this addictive personality, it's just at the heart or the core of my soul. Um and basically you know I think uh when I think about sin, in the book that I'm reading, it gives an example about like our shadows. Like our shadow is something that we rarely ever think about, right? I think when we go out on a walk, we don't say like, "Oh, there's my shadow," like uh, there's my reflection, But basically, what the author related our shadow to is basically um, this addictive personality in our lives, this sin in our lives that it's there, but we just are not paying attention to it. We don't recognize it, But as I was thinking about, like uh, thinking about that example, it it reminded me that that is really the start of like our salvation. When like God actually gives us a glimpse, like that rare glimpse of like, hey, you have this sin in your life, like there's this shadow that you're not seeing, like you get this short glimpse of how you're living and you're like, oh God, I need help, like that's like the start of that's the really start of us recognizing that, like just like when I couldn't put down my phone, I recognized like, God, I am so powerless to this. Like there's even though I'm telling myself I want to uh, like what do you call it? Like, you know, um, like train myself to do it or like make myself will myself to do it. I just couldn't stop, like it basically is a cycle that I had to go through every single day. As soon as I had some free time, this quiet time away from family or kids or work, like it would just be picking up the phone and going through the same like vicious cycle of going all through these different apps, and it ended up being like, like a couple of hours each time, right? Or however long I have time where I'm not being distracted by anything else. And so, uh, that's something that uh, hopefully I wanted to have us recognize, uh, like, do you recognize that, that we have this addictive personality? Because I think when we think of like addicts, what do we usually think about that comes to our mind is like people who are addicted to drugs, alcohol, like sex, relationships, that's what we think, uh, that's who we think are typically addicts, right? But at the surface level, we're all addicted to something, that's what I kind of recognized about myself. Um, so, uh, yeah, that's at the core of it. I needed to recognize that about myself this week, and so as soon as I recognize like, God, I I need help, right? It's not something that I could stop on my own. um I had to acknowledge that I was kind of like powerless to like what was going on. um the question I had to ask myself is like, how do I overcome this addiction? Like, how do I stop this addictive personality? Because, like I saw I saw a glimpse of it that, that I have a problem. I do have this problem. I can't put down the phone. And, as a believer, it led me to, there is a solution, right? The solution is God. The solution is in the Word of God, and so uh how do I overcome my addiction? How do we overcome our addiction? The simple answer is uh, spend time with God. I have to pray and I have to have a conversation with God. I have to have this alone time with God, like knowing that God wants to speak to me, like um, uh, when I uh, in college, I was like a electrical engineering major. So in uh, any type of like engineering field or computer science field, I don't know if anybody's planning to go into that field, like programming. Anybody? Like raise of hands or thumbs up. I'm not sure if anybody's like an engineering type of mind or who wants to get into programming, but like in college, I had to take like programming classes as part of like my engineering major. So there's like these different like computer languages that you learn. One of them is like basic just computer language. Like computer language, if you break it down, it's like all ones and zeros. They call them binary numbers. It's basically ones and zeros. and you can basically make a whole program with just ones and zeros, basically black and white, yes or no. It's like this very basic, very, if you really break it down, like even computer programming at the very basic, it's all it is like ones and zeros, plus negative, um, and uh, what I was contemplating as I was thinking about, how do I overcome my addictions? I recognize our thoughts and our minds, they're all based on ones and zeros, right? We're all just thinking like, what is good for me? Do I like this? Do I do not like this? Like, what is my personal preference? This is something that's good for me. This is something that's bad for me. It's in our nature to like automatically uh, think this is good or this is bad, and that's just how our mind thinks. Just like this computer program, it's ones and zeros. So how do I overcome this addictive personality, this one and zero mindset where it's just like yes or no, this is good, this is bad? And the only solution that I can come up with is that I have to spend time with God, because uh, what God says is that his ways are higher than my ways. His thoughts are higher than my thoughts. So the only time that I can have this reprogramming of my mind, or having a different 1 to 0 program, is I have to be in communion with God, with a time dedicated to God. Uh, and it led me to this Bible verse. I'm just going to read it for you guys, and I'm sure all of you guys have heard it before. But it says, Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." And so when we spend time with God, uh, uh, it is um, it is kind of uh, giving us like a different training to our mind. It's giving us to, like, we're never going to think like God. We're not going to know exactly what God is thinking. But when we spend time with God, uh, it does change our 1 to 0 mindset to like a more holistic mindset, I would say, like where you can, God will actually reveal stuff to us. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been in prayer and like God shows you something, that you didn't see. He shows you a part of that shadow that you didn't know that was there, and that only happens when we're alone with God. You know, there's a quote from the author that I just, that really hit me. It says, the author in the book, it says, "Some form of alternative consciousness is the only freedom from this self, sinful and addicted self." So basically what it's saying is that the like there has to be some other consciousness for us to be free from our addiction. Like has to be some higher thinking, some uh, some other way of thinking for us to overcome, this addictive personality that we have. This one or zero mindset. So like I mentioned, it's like I couldn't lay down my phone even though I wanted to. And a lot of the times we think like we can manage our sin, we can manage this addictive personality. But uh, from what I've experienced, I know, and I saw it this past week, like I can't, like, God, I can't manage this anymore. I'm really powerless to this, even though I say that, I want to lay down my phone, but I just can't, and I think that's kind of when I came to God and said, like, God, I need help. That's like, um, the second step, or actually the first step in this uh, 12-step process in the book, is like recognizing that we're powerless, to this addictive personality. And I think when I recognize how powerless I am, and I spend time with God and recognize who he is, it should make me want to be with God more. Like, it should make me desire and know that God, has this uh, has, something else in store for me. So um, like I think like I think that's something I wanted, uh, I guess wanted to recognizes that, I do have to have time alone with God to get out of this mindset. There has to be a different form of thinking. And um, yeah, so when I was thinking about that, the next logical question that came to my mind, and I know that a very common question that we all think about is that, like, I guess, um, do I want to stop? Like, because sometimes, like, when I'm doing it, it feels good, right? And I don't want to stop, obviously. It, in my nature, I, you know, this addictive personality, it feels good. It's like this numbing effect. Like when people take drugs and alcohol, it's to numb themselves, and when we're in this like vicious cycle, which I was in, and I often get into, it feels good. It feels like I'm just numb to the world, and this addictive personality. So the the follow-up question to that is like, do I even want to stop? Do I want to stop, like, kind of going through this vicious cycle on my phone? Um, do I see the benefits of stopping? And what I guess the answer that I got when I asked myself that is that that I have children, right? I have like my children, Emma and Joshua, and uh, at the root of my heart, I want to bless my kids. Like I want to give them. Uh, I really want to give them the best. Like if if there was something that is good for them, I want to give it to them. Like if they want to eat steak, I want to give them steak, like, or um, if they, like, want to, uh, have time with dad, I want to spend time with them. I want to give them like the very best, like my heart and desire is to always bless my kids, like, um, but what God reminded me of recently is that uh, he sent me to this Bible verse about, like how, like a earthly father, even though I know how to give good gifts to my children, uh, our heavenly Father uh, gives us the very best, the absolute best gift. Like, and I guess we have to ask ourselves, and I have to ask myself, do I believe that? You know, do I believe that God knows what's best for me? Like, in my heart, I do believe that. I believe that God does know what's exactly best for me. Like, do I trust? I guess the question is, do I trust God, and do I believe that Bible verse that God has the best in store for me? And in my deepest heart, I do believe that. But sometimes it's not easy to recognize that. But as a father, I do recognize that I do want to bless my children. And if God wants to bless me, uh, even though I'm a sinful father, blessing my kids, like how much more of a blessing are we going to be blessed through our heavenly Father? Like, and so when I thought about that, do I really want to overcome my addiction because, is there something better for me? Because it seems like this is totally fine and it feels good. There's nothing, I feel numb and it feels good, and so it led me to think about the story in the Bible about the Israelites and when they came out of Egypt. So I think we all know, like in the story in Exodus, the Israelites, they were living in bondage, right, in slavery in Egypt, right, and God decides to save them, right, to pull them out of slavery. And if you think about the children of Israel, they're coming out of Egypt, and they see all these like miracles happen, right, for God to pull them out. And they come out of Egypt, and then they come to the Red Sea, right? And God parts the Red Sea for them, right? And they start walking through the Red Sea, and then they see, like, the waves crashing down on the Egyptian army, right? And so they come out of the Red Sea, and now they start going. They see other miracles um, that God exhibits. Like manna is falling from heaven, and they're being guided day and night, right, with God's provision. And eventually, like the Israelites, the children of Israel, they come to the promised land, and God, this was the promise that God gave to them, like when I bring you out of Egypt, I'm going to bring you to this promised land, this land that's filled with milk, flowing with milk and honey, right? This like this great blessing, like there's this blessing I have in store for you, and they're basically right at the cusp of, the border of the promised land, right? This blessing that God is about to give to them. And what happens next is that, like they send the 12 spies, right? You guys all know the story, like about the 12 spies, right? So Moses sends in the 12 spies, and they go, basically, God is sending them into the promised land to affirm basically what God has already promised them, that there's this great blessing that I have in store for you. And, you know, uh, there's 10 spies that come back and they report, like, this is not what we expected, right? This is, uh, there's like these big giants in the promised land. We're going to get squashed. We're going to get defeated. And when the rest of the children of Israel hear this, they start grumbling. They start grumbling to Moses and like, why did you lead us here? Like we would rather have died in the wilderness or died in Egypt. Please appoint us a leader, and we just want to go back to the wilderness. But there were the two spies that reported differently, right? Like we know Joshua and Caleb, they came back, and when they came back from their mission, they had for some reason, a different perspective on what they saw. They said, this land is filled with milk and honey, and there are giants in this land, but God has promised us this land, and because of God's promise, we should go in, and when I was kind of, I guess, thinking about the story, like, like why, why did the 10 and the rest of the children of Israel, like, didn't believe what God had in store for them, but why did Joshua and Caleb, come back with this good report, and as I was thinking about it, like, why, like, are they special? Like, is Joshua and Caleb special? Like, why did they have a different perspective as they came back from their spy mission? Like, what did they see that the other people didn't see? And my only answer was that there was nothing special about them at all. In particular, they weren't like very special people. Uh, it reminded me of like I think Ada teacher asked like a question for some of the youth girls in like Bible study recently, like why did God choose the Israelites, and basically Pastor uh, gave an answer like, when Abraham was chosen, there wasn't anything particular about Abraham that was special, um, but it when I thought about Joshua and Caleb, like what made them special, like, or what made them stand out, and the only answer that I could think of is that uh, as they experienced like these miracles, like coming out of Egypt, seeing the Red Sea part, seeing the Egyptian army being destroyed, seeing the manna falling from the sky, um, seeing all these provisions, like God leading them day by night, uh, their their mind and their hearts were meditating on God. you know, I can imagine as they were going through all of these, through the wilderness, they were constantly being reminded of who God is, like what God had done for them, constantly meditating on on that. Like their mind was set on God. So when they went into the promised land and they came out, their perspective was different. And I think we all kind of know how the story ends, right? Where because the children of Israelites basically said, we rather go into the wilderness or we rather go back into Egypt. Basically, they spent, I think, another 40 years in the wilderness, and they all ended up perishing in the wilderness. But only two families ended up going into the promised land, Joshua and Caleb, and um, when I think about that story, it's like, and asking myself the question, like, um, do I want to overcome my addiction, and do I know that there's something better for me? Like, it made me realize I have a choice. I have a choice. I can stay, I can stay and in the wilderness and want to go back into the wilderness, but do I really know that I have a choice to go into the promised land? And the only way that I can enter into this promised land or this blessing, this great blessing that God has prepared for me, is that I have to be on the same page as God, basically. You know what I mean? I can't have my same 1 and 0 mindset where this 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 wilderness is better for me. But there is something better for me that God has in store for me. And the only way I can do that is if I basically come back to like spending time with God. Like I have to be transformed by the renewing of my mind. I have to be reprogrammed where it's not just 1s and 0s anymore. It's not black and white, but God has a different program set for 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 a way for me to think. And uh, we won't ever think how God thinks, but like I said, it's only by God's grace and mercy when we spend time with God where we see a glimpse of that shadow. We see like a glimpse of like how we're thinking. Um, this sinful nature. At the core of it, this like addictive personality, that's just the surface level, if you think about it. This addictive personality of like going on my phone and like going through all these like apps and, all these different websites, that's just the very surface level of the addiction. The deeper level of the addiction is like my own way of thinking. So it's like how I see like my world through my own blinders and like what I perceive as good and bad, what I like, what I don't like. At the very deeper addiction is just I'm just stuck to my own way of thinking. Um, so we have this choice, like, and there is I think when I really thought about my life, like, when are the times that um actually experienced this goodness of God. Like, when have I actually entered into this promised land? And uh, I think the times that I've experienced in my life is uh, those times when God actually did show me, like uh, that my way of thinking was wrong. Yeah, I mean, I have so many examples. I have some small examples, some bigger examples, but um, there's many times where like it's either through God or through somebody else. They showed me, hey, this way of thinking is wrong. This shadow that you have behind you, can you see this? Because there is something better in store for you if you can recognize this shadow that's following you. This shadow that you have, like there's something better for you. And I can think a couple of things. There's one, like when our family decided to move from San Francisco to Irvine, like I remember God showing me a glimpse, like if you stay living in this way, like how your family is living, you're gonna die spiritually. So there's something better for you. You need to leave, basically leave, like. And I got this glimpse from God, and God just showed it to me, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna obey. Like that was by grace of God. And uh, I think when we first moved to Irvine, we were living in like a small 2-bedroom apartment. And it was so, for me, it's very comfortable. Like uh, I was like, this is like like I didn't expect anything more. I thought this was a good life, like just living in our 2-bedroom apartment. And, like I guess financially, it's very stable, right? The very fixed expense. But um, it was through my wife who showed me, if we hold on to this apartment, there's so much more blessing in store if we move into a bigger place so that we can try to serve the community that we're in right now. And that was something that God didn't reveal, but somebody else. And that's one of the blessings with being in community, is that other people can show us this this glimpse, this shadow that we don't see. And like I never I can't even imagine going back to my 2-bedroom apartment. You know what I mean? It's like now that we live in like a little bigger place and we're able to enjoy this place more, I can't even imagine going back. But I if I if I guess if my wife didn't reveal it to me, I'd still be stuck there. I'd still be stuck in my 2 bedroom apartment. Or if God didn't reveal to me like that, about the dangers of like, living the way we were living in San Francisco, I would still be there. You know what I mean? I'd still be running this rat race every day of going to work, and basically just our spiritual lives would be dying, my wife and I, and obviously our kids, and just other examples. Like my wife has helped me a lot to see a lot of these things, like um, yeah, I have more examples that I can give, but those are some of the bigger ones that, when I look back, I can say that uh, there was a great blessing in store, but I had to see it first, and the only way I can see it is through God, or sometimes it's through people, sometimes it's through the people that are closest to us. Um, so, so ultimately, that's, uh, those are the questions that I kind of want us that, I wanted to ask ourselves in discussion, like that we should think about, like one, do I have an addictive personality? Do I recognize that I have this addictive nature? And if I do, just like, when I couldn't put down my phone, can I recognize that I'm powerless to it? That I need help, like help has to come from somewhere else, and the second part, like I think like how do I overcome these addictions is like I have to spend time with God. Like I have to get out of my addictive way of thinking, and come to this higher form of thinking, which is very impossible on my own, but that's only through spending time with God. And then the third kind of question that I think we all commonly ask is like, do I even want to, like, do I even need this help? Do I want to overcome these addictions? Because is it good for me? I think hopefully, um, hopefully we can recognize that, God does have the best for us. Like He has this blessing in store for us that we can only receive as if we change the way we think. Like we change our way of thinking, and God has something in store for us. And uh, ultimately, like when I was thinking about the Israelites coming out of Egypt and, you know, going through the wilderness and, going into the promised land, like even though we stay in the wilderness, God told me it doesn't mean you're not saved. You know what I mean? Like when we come out of Egypt, we come out of Egypt and God has pulled us out of slavery. We're saved. But uh, I think the better life or the wiser choice is to decide that, we don't want to live in the wilderness our entire life, like we don't want to live in our addictions our entire life, but recognize that uh, that God has the best in store for us. He has uh, this promised land uh, of inheritance that He wants to bless us with. And it's only if we come to God and spend time with God and change our way of thinking, um, that we can actually do this, And uh, just to finish before we jump into discussion, I have this um, like this daily devotional book, and um, I don't know if you guys have seen it before, but it's called like Jesus Calling. Anybody have seen it before? It's like Ada has seen it. It's like I remember getting this as a gift when I first became a Christian, and the way I don't know, I feel like it's really inspired by the Holy Spirit because the way these devotionals are, it's almost like God is speaking directly to us. And so sometimes when I, like when I like these times where I was preparing for the message, like God, I need to spend more time with you, like uh, I try to have this like by my bed, like the first thing I pick up is not my phone, but if I can pick this up, then God, it's a transformation of my mind even before I start the day. But there was uh, I guess a devotional that I read like 2 days ago, and I just want to read it because it directly relates to the message today. But um, it's from December 4th, which is 2 days ago. It says, "My thoughts are not your thoughts. neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways and thoughts higher than yours. Remember who I am when you spend time with me. Marvel at the wonder of being able to commune with the King of the universe, anytime, any place. Never take this amazing privilege for granted. Though I am vastly higher and greater than you, I am training you to think my thoughts. As you spend time in my presence, my thoughts gradually form in your mind. My spirit is the director of this process. Sometimes he brings Bible verses to mind. Sometimes he enables you to hear me speak directly to you. These communications strengthen you and prepare you for whatever is before you on your life path. Take time to listen to my voice. Through your sacrifice of precious time, I bless you far more than you dare to ask. And uh, that devotional really spoke to me, and I think one challenge that I know a lot of us, like when we go into like time with God or prayer, it's like, God, I don't even know what to talk about, like what do I, when I go into my prayer closet or when I spend time, like, what am I supposed to conversate, or what do I bring up, and um uh there is I think there was a one of the messages I gave was about like morning prayer, and when I was thinking about like uh, why it's so difficult for us to spend time with God, it's because we don't know what to say. I don't know if you guys ever struggle with that. Like I don't want to have time with God because there's nothing to say. And it brought me back to like a verse um, that uh, that John Piper shared about like why it's important to pray or like how to pray, and it says, it's from Psalms 5:3. It says, "O Lord, in the morning you hear my voice. In the morning I prepare a sacrifice for you and watch." And basically it's saying that, in the morning I come to you, God, and I prepare a sacrifice. And sometimes like uh, we always struggle, like, what's the sacrifice I'm supposed to give to God? Like just like this past Thanksgiving like offering is like, I always struggle, like, God, how much do I give you? Right? Like what is a good offering? Like what am I supposed to give to you that is the right amount? Like how do I offer? But basically what John Piper said is like when we come to God and prepare a sacrifice, the sacrifice is just us. We just have to give ourselves, when we come to God. And if we are dedicating this time to like spend time with God, the offering is just bringing ourselves. It's nothing else. Just bringing our time, our mind, our thoughts, and just laying it before God, and we just leave it there. The sacrifice is just leaving us there. And then basically what it says is then we watch. It says, I prepare a sacrifice for you and then I watch. Like, and what John Piper said is like basically what are we looking for and what are we watching for? And basically what John Piper said is like when we come to God and prepare our sacrifice ourselves, what we're looking for is God is gonna remind us of his steadfast love, like reminding us of who he is. And and when we kind of remember that steadfast love, then we go into this deep kind of meditation with God, like where I've come from. And that's when God can change our minds, when we remember what God has done for us. So, yeah, that's the message for today, guys.
Thank you so much, Eric, teacher. I'll send you guys into your breakout rooms. If you guys are sharing a screen and you need to add on, just add on right now. And I think this is really relatable to all of us. And like Ben teacher started us off, we can start there even. What are we addicted to? Even just on our phones. I think that's a huge thing for us. And to turn that addiction from all these other things to God, I think that would be the greatest blessing for us throughout our lives. So have a great discussion, guys.